And so when you take those ambitions of like, hey, I want to play at these levels, or this is kind of what I want to do with my soccer or my academics, and then you start to self-reflect, then you can start to put together, all the pieces and start to figure out how you're going to go about it. Some of the typical challenges that come along the way for a lot of players are going to be financial, just economic budgets, knowing how to come across everything. What are your finances? What can your parents pay? Did you qualify for any financial assistance? What kind of categories do you fall into? Are you FAFSA? You not FAFSA? Are you AB 540? You not AB 540? Are you getting any kind of additional grant?
Is he gone?
Yeah, you there? Greg, I don't think we can hear you. Can you guys hear him?
Nah, he disappeared.
I'm here right now.
No.
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Okay, it just kind of like clicked out of it. So
Okay.
Okay, so I was just saying, interpersonal challenges is just kind of your personal motivation. It's where are you psychologically. For some people, they have life happens and life hits, and so just kind of knowing how that all fits. It's part of it. And are you just mentally ready? Are your maturity ready? Are you good to go? So, and then beyond that, it's athleticism. It's a huge jump. What a lot of our guys realize coming to the college process, it's a big athletic jump. A lot of guys come in very undersized, needing to work on just various aspects of their overall athleticism, just to make the jump to compete at this level. The game is faster. It's more physical. It's more taxing in terms of endurance, especially here on the West Coast. It's a little bit more direct. It's high pressing at times. So just your overall nature to it and approach is going to be different. Academics is big for a lot of guys, and it's not just the guys that have low high school GPAs. College is going to be very challenging in many different ways for you. So you have to figure out where are you in academic success. And even checking, like me coming out of high school, I had a 4.0. I struggled in college because I didn't have great study habits. And when you start,
I think he disconnected again.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think we lost you there.
Jeez, is that
Great.
Joe?
it keeps kind of pushing out. We good?
Yeah, we're good now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. So anytime you jump in levels, it's going to be an adjustment from your soccer. And you guys come from a great soccer background and a lot of good foundational things. But either still, you're going to have to adjust to the level. You're going to have to adjust to the way these conferences play, different styles from oppositions, and really break down the game. So those are just some of the things that we highlight as far as going to be your challenges in these upcoming years. The next one, as I know I talked to Coach a lot about, is just finding your fit. And you really looking at, when we say finding your fit, is looking at all the aspects of the university. One of the big questions that I ask college coaches when my guys are transferring out is, when my players are done, and this is for you guys, when you're done there, what's next? A lot of players don't look that far, and they kind of go to a place for soccer. But if you're not playing, or things get hard and you don't really understand the pathway of that school, or when you're done graduating and you don't go professional and now you've got a degree, what's next for you guys? Is there internships? Is there things that are available? Is a school going to help you find a job? And that's where a lot of players get in trouble. As I shared with Coach, I can't tell you how many of my buddies that I played with that, after we graduated, were trying to sleep on my couch because they couldn't find a job and they didn't know where to go. It's just something that you really need to ask yourselves, what's the whole part of this process, and what is the school really going to give me? And then the last part I put, this is what we're going to talk about in the next slide, is just each player needs to know what tier, okay, this is important for you guys to write this down, what tier / category do you belong to? And when we say that, it's not a knock on you on any way, any of your abilities. Everybody with those challenges and just what they've got kind of going on in the whole picture, is going to belong to a tier or a category. And a lot of times it's just defined on what best fits you. What's going to best fit your financial budget? What's going to best fit your development? How are you going to play and maximize games? How are you going to get to that end game? So knowing your starting point is really where I tell a lot of players where you have to be as best realistic as possible. And you probably have to find the most information out by asking your club coaches, asking your high school coaches, talking to your family, and figuring out what is your best category or tier. Do we have any questions at this point, Carlos? Has anybody chimed in on anything?
No, I haven't seen anything on the chat. The only thing that I would add is like when you look at find your fit, that's something that for us within our club, that's a big part of my role is identifying your fit athletically, academically, financially, and socially. And when I talk about socially, I'm talking about size of school, East Coast, West Coast, inside California, outside of California, UC, private school, state school, all those different things we take into consideration. And then we start to narrow down what's going to be your best fit. So any of you that have done the student athlete questionnaire, that helps me help you figure out what schools we should target. And then with this next part that Greg's going to talk about in terms of the tiers and categories, that's really going to help you narrow that down and figure it out. So any questions with any of that? I haven't seen any in the chat, but I want to, if you
Does
have
anybody want to chime in on that? Nope. Good.
Okay.
Okay, we can move on.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, one of the things that we talked about, especially talked to coaches in our experience, and this is not something, guys, that, you know, a lot of coaches are willing to share with players, but when we evaluate players, you know, this is all outside of talent. Okay. And of course it's going to play inside, and some of the talent's going to play into that, but for you guys to realize that players really fall into 4 categories for us. Okay. And we're seeing it, and this is for 2-year schools, this is for 4-year schools, and this is how we kind of lay it all out. And as I said, as a coordinator, I tell my players that this is really going to fall into the ways that you have to go. The first tier of players is 4 years. It's direct 4-year process, and it's with the scholarship. And so how are you going to know that your tier 1 is if the 4-year schools are actively recruiting you, they're showing up to games, the coaches are very involved with the process, and they're starting to talk figures. If they're talking about walk-on opportunities, or hey, maybe the red shirt thing, or, you know, we got to ask more questions, and that's not the tier 1 that we're talking about. Tier 1 is these coaches are at your games, they're inquiring about your coaches, and they're starting to put money on the table. We say these schools are investing in you. That's the sure thing right there, is that the investment is possible. And for the most part, tier 1 is really going to narrow down to primarily the guys that are getting, you know, like 75% tuition and above. Because depending on what that actual cost of the tuition is, if the school costs $40,000 for tuition, then you've got housing, you've got books, you've got general living expenses, etc. That price starts to add up pretty quickly. And if you're not qualifying for anything, then again, there's no real investment in what you can do. And we're going to come back to that a little bit later as we go through. Tier 2 is you can get into a 4-year, but there's some financial obligations. That's the first part of tier 2. That means like schools are recruiting you, but it's maybe for a walk-on. Maybe they're going to give you just books. Maybe they're going to give you a very small piece of something just to get you to come and kind of entice you a little bit, but there's huge financial obligations to go there. I use a very quick example of a lot of players that are going to go to a Cal State, and they say, Coach, they're going to give me a half scholarship, and that's $5,000, and that's what I'm going to get with my FAFSA and everything. And say, okay, well, what's left to pay out of pocket? And they said it's $5,000 to pay out of pocket. And the first question I ask them is, would you pay $5,000, $6,000 to play on your club team right now? And probably about 99% of them would say no, because it's a lot of money to play soccer. And at club, you probably get about 50 to 80 games a year at very high levels, and continue to get a lot of exposure, a lot of practice time. But at Division Division II, there's so many restrictions on our hours, and actually any college really, there's a lot of restrictions on our hours. So you're only going to get about 20 games in the fall, and the rest of the time you're on your own, and maybe you're doing some strength workouts and some different things with the guys. But it's minimal practices throughout the year because you're traveling, you're doing this and that. In the springtime, there's a couple of spring games, minimize spring practices, and then in the summer you're only practicing really probably from July, and if you go to a 4-year, you're not even going to get on the field until August. And so when you start to break that all down, then I say, okay, if you say yes, you would pay $5,000 to $6,000 to play with your club team. Now, would you pay $5,000 to $6,000 to play with your club team for 3 months? And that's really what it comes down to. It's just playing in that SCDSL or whatever league you guys are involved in. Would you pay all that money just to be a part of that? Because that's what it is. And that's on the high side, guys, especially for incoming freshmen and sophomores. That's assuming that you're going to make the roster and you're going to travel and you're going to be a starter and play that many games. Statistically, most freshmen and sophomores are redshirted or don't make travel teams. And if they are on the squad, are only coming in slightly off the bench in the latter minutes. So that's why I tell those guys again, is you really start to look at what it's gonna be. You start moving down on what your overall investment is going to be on that return. The other side of tier 2, as we say, is a compromised choice. It's, I want to go to this school. These were my top 5 schools. They didn't want me. So because I want to play at this level, I'm just going to go here. Or because I want to be a part of a 4-year straight out the gate, I'm just going to go to an NAIA, or I'm going to go to this school. And it's not really where I was trying to go, but at least I'm going to be in a 4-year. It's not necessarily a wise investment, as we tell players, unless it financially makes sense and you're okay with the compromise. But what we find out from most players is that compromise is based from a 17, 18-year-old. You're changing your decision. But imagine if you got better and you were able to improve your stock and you were to do a lot of different things that we're going to talk about today, how you can improve yourself so that you don't have to compromise. And what a lot of players don't realize right now, those of you that have ambitions of playing at 4 years, and especially Division I's and Division II's, all the buying power is to the coaches because they have athletic scholarships. But a lot of trends show us now that those scholarships are going to a lot of players that are overseas or in other places, older players with a gap year. So for you guys as juniors and seniors coming into this process, you really don't have any buying power outside of your ability to negotiate or to demand more money. So if they're not completely sold on you, you're a local kid from Southern California, and that scholarship is worth exactly the same if I got a kid out of Real Madrid in Spain. A scholarship's a scholarship. So, so if I'm looking at players and I can take a 17-year-old from SoCal, or I can take a 22-year-old who's been in the systems over there and just is not making it and now wants to go to plan B and go to school, I'm probably going to take a 22-year-old because that player is a lot more mature. He's lived the game. He's gone through it. He's played at an extremely high level. So if I'm going to spend or waste a scholarship, I'm going to waste it or I'm going to put my money somewhere else and doing that. And so that's what really gives the reflection back on you guys when we talk about compromised choices. When you really navigate this properly and you use everything that's available to you, you get that buying power back, and you're no longer subject to these coaches to just being able just to get you to settle for something. And that's even like for walk-on opportunity. I tell my players never to settle for just a walk-on spot. Make sure that they're going to invest in you, because if you're going to invest in them and pay money to go to their school, you want to see that love and that reciprocation back to you, so that when you show up on campus, if you have a bad day, they're not going to just push you aside. We good with that, Carlos?
Yeah, I think that's great. I mean, and you'll touch into, I think, when you mentioned, improving your stock and how to improve your stock, I think is key. And it looks like that's probably what you're going to get to in when you talk about tier 3 and other options. Yeah.
Yeah. And when we talk about improving your stock and navigating the business, that's when we get into tier 3 and tier 4. Tier 3 is transferring to a 4-year, and that is going through a community college route and getting your education, getting college coursework at a very good financial price point, regardless of what your parents' money are. There's so many programs now that we'll talk about. But you go in, you academically find success, you improve your collegiate study habits, you develop athletically, You work within a good system, play extremely high-level games. Maybe a lot of you guys don't realize that community colleges actually play more games than four-year schools. We have less restrictions to our practices and the amount of time we actually spend with our players. There's a lot of community colleges that are full staff that just have a lot of resources. Like I know particularly with us, we see our guys 12 months out of the year, and we're always doing something all year long. And that's not a luxury that our school down the street in Cal State Fullerton has that. Coach Kuntz over there spends probably about half the time with his team because they have a lot of restrictions and things to do. But when you transfer to the 4-year and you do those things and you grow academically, you grow athletically, and then you're also going to play high-level games, especially if you stay here in Southern California. It's probably one of the hardest places to play. If you do that, your soccer is going to grow in turn as well. Now, when you go to transfer, you're a proven player. Now you're going to be 18, 19 years old. You have a lot of experience. You've proven your success. And the way that the community college is working, you get a lot of buying power because their schools, institutions, those transfer schools, admissions, and their counselors are going to invest in you because of your academics if you do everything the right way. And so there's a lot of things that come into it. Now you're not the 17, 18-year-old with no games under your belt. Now you're the 19, 20-year-old that's played 50-plus collegiate games. You've been in a program that's helped you develop. You've taken, anywhere from 40 to 60 college courses, kept up your grades. You've been in the weight room, growing, maturing as a player. And especially for guys, you're not hitting your growth spurts until you're 18, 20 to 21 range. So there's some prime years to even grow on your frame. And so when you put all that together, you're a new, polished, and well-packaged individual. And that's, for us, is a key phrase. When we bring in recruits, we talk about why come to Fullerton College is, because you're a great player now, but give us the opportunity to polish you and repackage you. And that's how we create opportunities. So that's really tier 3, and we'll get into that a little bit more of that here in a second. Tier 4 are guys that, listen, and there's guys probably on this call that, hey, you like soccer, but you want to get an education, and that's the number one priority for you and your family. And so what I say is, don't shy away from tier 4 and using the community college to navigate your academics, because most of us will say we have automatic transfers to UCs and Cal States, if that's especially where you're trying to go. The first 2 years at a community college, you're taking all the same core courses that you would be taking at any Cal State, UC. So you're not losing anything. And in fact, about 90% of the coursework that you would even be taking at your private schools, your Loyola Marymount's, your USC's, your APU's, your Biola's, it's all the same work. There's only about 10% of your load that would be tied into whatever type of school that is. So like if it's a Jesuit school or a Christian school, taking some Christian core theology classes, maybe some classes that are just part of your general electives for the school. But like I said, even at private schools, 90% of your classwork is going to be the same exact thing that you'd be doing at a community college. But if you navigate your academic pathway and knowing those key points, that you could really save some money there, and you can still be academics and get your GPA up and maximize your academic scholarship more than anything else. And so, to kind of wrap this all together, what we're going to talk about, guys, and really what I like to educate players on is how do I put all the tiers together? Like, I like all of that. I want to play it. I want to reach my potential. So how do I put it all together, knowing that I'm in this tier right now, but I have these goals and aspirations, and I don't mind going through different routes and navigating it and trying different things, but how do I put it all together? And that's what I'm going to talk to you about in the last 2 slides.
I got one question on that, Greg. So who would you say, like, if somebody has a 4.6 and then another player has a 3.5 and another guy has a 2.5, how does that change these tiers per se in any way?
Sure. I mean, the biggest question and what's going to define this tier is, if we're talking about GPAs, is going to be, are you getting and qualifying for any academic money? And, and we tell players, it says, like, going into college, a 4.6, a 3.5, 2.0, especially through some of the 2 years, it's all the same. We don't equate any scholarships there. So if the next institution you're going to doesn't put any validity in that, then it doesn't make any sense. So if you're going to go to University of Laverne or Cal Poly Pomona or something like that, and they're not giving you any academic money or enough academic money for it to make sense, then you're not really losing anything, because again, you're only talking about maybe maximum 10% of classes. So really our push for the community college route, what we're going to talk here is, if you go to community college and you start getting those GPAs up to above a 3.0 and you start getting a 3.3, 3.5, what you're going to see is those institutions now are going to be willing to invest because you're only carrying half of the academic load for them. It's the same thing like a collegiate soccer coach. If I'm an admissions office, I would much rather invest in a kid that's taking 60 collegiate units and has been successful in maintaining a GPA than to gamble on a high school senior, even with a 4.6 GPA. I don't know if his courses were easy or if he had good professors or because he was an athlete, they helped him out a little bit. We don't really know what those study habits are going to be until you actually take collegiate work. Like I said, for myself personally, I graduated third in my class, and when I got there the first semester to Loyola Marymount, I got put on probation because I didn't have good study habits. I was very good in high school, knew a lot of different people, knew more street savvy than anything else and how to get things done, but that doesn't work in college. And again, so now you're starting to do these things, and if you do that, it has to financially make sense for you just the same. So that's why I said really they all going to come hand in hand. Did that answer for you, Carlos?
Yeah, I think so, because for me, I went straight into D1 at USD, and it was a small school, so it worked for me. And in my experience with working with players, it's always, a lot of them are always talking about D1, D2, D3. The ones that even start looking at D3 and NAIA have a lot more opportunities. I've never really had a lot of experience going the JC route. But like I said, talking to you last week, it opened my eyes in how that works and how that can benefit, especially on the boys' side or the men's side, in terms of giving them those opportunities and those pathways, and how it benefits getting those academic credits under your belt, and also getting the playing experience under your belt, and then how a lot of these 4-year schools are recruiting from JC 2-year programs because they know what they're getting. So I just want to I kind of want to hammer that home with these guys, so you guys get that this is a totally, and for some of you it works, and this could be a great path. Some of you, you might go straight into the 4-year, but I think you really need to pay attention to these details, because it could really apply to a lot of you guys.
Yeah, and I'd say before we switch slides, the one thing that I said, going back to my experience, guys, was, going into a 4-year at LMU and kind of going in academically, I was walking in with an academic scholarship and just said, okay, I'm going to go and try to walk on. And so as I'm getting there and I'm starting to work out team, I'm thinking I'm tier 2, kind of in that category. But as after the first semester, that first year being with the group, I realized, man, I was actually a tier 3 guy that should have went to a JC, should have got my academics in order, should have built up my study habits, should have grew on my build. So walking into that Division I program, I had the ability, but if I was better geared to do it on all levels, I would have been more successful as a player and really got to my end game route of completing the process, rather than after that first year and a half of academic probation and then falling behind and chasing it all the time. Every week that I was out there not prepared, I was falling quickly behind. And there you go, 18 months later, I'm on the outs, and spent the next 3 years trying to get back to where I was. Had I just navigated it right from the beginning, that none of those things would have happened, and I would have had a clear pathway, and I've actually would have gone there. And like, as I told Coach, when this thing was all said and done, didn't fully achieve everything that I wanted to do in the college of my choice, which was Loyola Marymount. Had to end up graduating from Cal State Fullerton, and academically, because I had to make up so much coursework after so many mistakes, it took me 6.5 years to finish a 4-year degree. So again, we tell players, if you're always looking behind, or you're always chasing things because you cut corners or you fail to educate yourself on the right process, it's actually going to be a lot harder for you if you just get realistic from the get and go down the right tier in the right category and create the right pathway to be as direct as possible. So we have guys coming out of high school that are tier 2 guys, and they really have a hard time making the decision to come to community college. But once they find out that they come back, they do everything they need to, they actually qualify, for more money when they transfer, and they're actually finishing their degree within 4 years. So like we have a player right now that's just finishing up his school out of high school to his number one school. He had a 25% scholarship. Tuition there is $60,000. So that's not a whole lot. It's $15,000. His parents really didn't have money, so a lot of that was going to be in loans. Came and played for us for 2 years. And after he was done, his scholarship was 115%, which means he got full tuition, housing, books, meal money, and the school wrote him a $300 check every month. So he didn't have to work at Home Depot anymore. That changed his lives, guys. And plus, the 2 years he was with us, he didn't pay one dime. He got free schooling. So he had no debt. For the 2 years he was at his school, he was playing at his top school. He was captain when he got there because he was already coming in as a mature player, started every game for him, and they were paying him a bonus check. So instead of owing school of the money in debt and loans, they were paying him the whole time he was there. And so that would have been a different story. That picture on the other side of that 25% would have equated to about $50,000 to $60,000 a year in loans. So when he's done, he would have owed the school over $200,000 in debt before he ever got his first job. So those are the things that we kind of talk about and we educate our players on. There's another player that comes to mind with us that he was a tier 2 guy where he had a lot of schools. He was coming out of an academy program and no one really recruited him. He dropped the ball a lot, didn't have the education. Coaches didn't help him. And he ended up compromising his choice and going to a very small, not very well-known Division II program that didn't have a lot of resources. So this first 2 years there, he got redshirted, and then the second year he made the team, but he wasn't traveling all the time, was having a miserable time. He came to us for 8 months. So I got him in spring, summer, and then in fall he played. In the fall, we polished him, repackaged him over the time he was with us. But at the end of the fall, he was one of the top players in the state of California at our level. He got a full ride scholarship to Loyola Marymount. By the halfway through his first season with them, he was named captain, and his coaches just told us last month that at the end of next season, he's going to go to the draft. So it's life-changing. Just doing things the right way and being in a good system and listening to people that are really trying to help you instead of people that are trying to sell you is the best way to get to where you're trying to go.
And there's two things here. There's ways that Greg's giving you information that are going to help you in the soccer pathway with identifying where your tier is, and then you could get that route to the draft. But then there's also pathways where when you actually get through school, you use soccer as the vehicle and you get out of school, number one, without any debt, but number two, maybe even with a better education. Because I think you mentioned, Greg, if you had to do it all over again, the amount of time that it took you to graduate, if you did it over, you'd probably end up coming out on the better end. You're probably better to explain how you would have done it if you had to do it over again.
Yeah, if I would have done it over again and I would have listened to where I really was, instead of really kind of pushing the issue, I would have gone to a 2-year school straight out the gate, got my classwork, improved my study habits, really learned what college life was all about. I was a young guy coming into college, so I was 17 when I first started, and so I would have allowed myself to physically grow, mentally grow, continue to work on my game now that I was exposed to it. And after that, if I had the ability out of high school to play at a Division I level, that wasn't going to go anywhere. So all I would have done is I would have improved my stock. I could have probably qualified from some soccer money as well as my academic money. I would just have improved it at all levels. And I would have been walking into a playing situation instead of walking into a situation as a walk-on, being the 35th guy on the roster every season. That's hard because you're always chasing the game in many aspects. And so again, you start falling out, the more you keep falling behind. And so I know for a fact, if I would have gone the other way around, I would have finished my degree with very minimal debt, and I would have been done in 4 years rather than, like I said, 6.5.
But if you did 6, you could have ended up getting some money because if you would have done most of your requirements in the JC, you would have started to get some grad classes in, right? Or something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the other ways that kids don't really realize is if I would have navigated my clock properly, especially being 17 years old. So especially for you young guys that are out there that are going to go to college early and leave high school as like 17, if I would have utilized my gray shirt year and my gap years, what a lot of things people are saying, and took that year off, just took some classes, as long as I would have taken 11 units a semester, which is not quite full time. And then my second year, I would have redshirted just to continue to grow on my build and get better at my game and just work at it, not be in such a hurry to play. My first year of college, as at a 4-year, I still would have had 4 years of eligibility. So what that would have looked like for me was I could have played 2 years as a junior and senior in college, and then played as a grad student, either at that same program or at another institution, and got my grad school paid for. So in those 6 years, I would have walked out with 2 degrees with no debt, rather than in 6 years, 1 degree and $60,000 in debt.
That's huge. That to me is what's game changing to me. If you look at it, you've gone through it one way. If you had to do it over again, the difference that you can make in that, and that's why it's so important for us to share this information with you guys, and how you can be on the other side of that versus learning the hard way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's huge.
Yeah, absolutely. Is there any questions on that? Does any boys want to chime in, or they want me to elaborate a little bit more?
I think the only thing I would say is maybe if you can explain to them what gray shirt, red shirt, and gap year means, because I don't know if they know.
Yeah, let me talk first about kind of like the levels, and so you guys understand. So you guys covered the levels, like the NC2As, the 1s, the 2s, the 3s, the NAIAs, and how they're just maybe a little bit different.
Some may know, some may not.
Okay. So just to kind of quickly highlight, because we're going to start talking a little bit more about the business. And again, for me, this is a big part of it. The NC2A's got obviously the 3 levels. You've got Division I, which has athletic scholarships. And a lot of their money and their placement on their teams is going to rely on their athletic investment in you. Cal State's, some Cal State's UCs, for the most part, are your Division I schools. A lot of your private schools are as well. But with that part of it is, those are the schools that are going to have ability to invest in you athletically as well as possibly academically, depending on their school's requirements. But remember, what I tell a lot of players is, with the UCs and the private schools, remember that tuition cost nearly doubles that of a Cal State. And for private schools, sometimes even 4 times the amount. So when they talk about giving you money, you got to look at the end line budget and what that number is. But also, as you start to get into those more prestigious schools academically, the less likely the institution is going to be willing to invest in you academically until you prove yourself. And a lot of times what players don't also realize is, remember, all of these deals, I kind of laugh jokingly, even the coaching staff, these are all 1-year contracts. If you go in there and you don't perform or you don't live up to your level of expectations, they can take that scholarship away from you as quickly as they gave it to you. If something happens, you get hurt, you're not able to complete your season, you academically fall behind, like with me, all these things can be removed. So when they say, hey, we're going to give you this amount of scholarship, remember, that's not a 4-year deal. That's a 1-year deal. And every year it's renegotiated. If you do well, they can increase it. And if you don't do well and they have somebody else coming in for you, you can find yourself having to tell your parents that you're going to lose a lot of your money in the scholarship. The second part, NCAA Division II, it's very, very minimum as far as what they're able to do. A lot of it's going to be based for these schools is going to be academic money. So if you don't have good GPAs coming out of high school, or you're not very academically driven, it's going to be very difficult for them to qualify you. They're going to rely heavily on your FAFSAs and what you're able to put together. Division IIIs are going to be strictly academics. So a lot of these schools can't even recruit you until you academically get admitted to their school. And a lot of that's going to be based on what your costs are going to be whether or not their admissions and financial aid department can actually help you or wants to help you. So there's no athletic money there. It's all going to be based on your academics. And then your NAIAs are the schools that I think a lot of kids kind of skip over. But if you need financial assistance, these are the schools that typically have the most amount of money. They're not always going to live up to the same end game as far as, if you're going to USC versus, a Hope University, it's not going to be the same maybe when it comes to the job market. But if you're trying to get your bachelor's done and you want to play and you don't have minimal cost, it's a nice way. It's an also thing that we talk about for players that, like, I have guys that we push to the NAIA because I know they're going to have to get a master's degree in the field that they're going. And so I tell them, spend the least amount of money possible getting your bachelor's, get into and invest your money into your graduate program. So if you were going to pay anything out of pocket and you knew you didn't have soccer as your end game, and then AIA might be a great way to go to get your bachelor's down, play at a 4-year level, get a lot of help in a university, and save all the money and all your investment to your grad school. So that's kind of the different levels. Then you have the Christian colleges, where just are a little bit different. And then for us, the next level is the community college, and we do everything through the state. You'll qualify for any California community college for all the state funding and all the programs that we have. We use FAFSA, we use Cal Grant, we use the Promise Grant, which I'll talk about a little bit. You can use AB 540. And so basically your tuition is going to be free, and we're built on transferring. So if you don't get into that number 1 or the number 2 school, but you want to continue your soccer, community college is then the best way to go, because you're not stuck to the institution. So like right out of high school, if you pick that NAIA or you go to that Division III and you don't like it, in a sense, you're going to be stuck a little bit to that institution. And then if not, you're going to have to appeal to get out. And there's a lot of processes that follow with that. But for the most part, you're there. So, and then going to the question about gray shirting and red shirting, that's basically managing your clock. And that's most important to guys that are bent on Division I levels. The gray shirt it's almost like you're there, but you're not there. You don't enroll full-time, because your NC2A clock will start the first time you enroll full-time into college, which is 12 units or more. So when you take a gray shirt year, it's like you're taking school and you're starting it. It's almost like when you're in high school right now, and some of your schools offer that college course that you can do online, or you can go to their school and take that night class. It's the same thing. So you haven't started your clock, but you're getting college units, which is a nice way, because you can get 22 units your first year. So you're nearly there, and you actually haven't started one bit of your eligibility clock. The other side of that is that's what a lot of players now are calling their gap year. Gap year is more for kids that just opt out of college altogether and are just trying to do a straight 4-year. But gap year gray shirt is very similar, just it's preference on whether or not you actually want to take academic courses. Your red shirt is you have 5 years to play 4 years of eligibility. So that red shirt year is your 5th year. It can be used your first year, your second year, or any year after that. You just have a year of eligibility as a throwaway, to just kind of, get things done. There's many different reasons on ways on how that gets used. There's also a medical red shirt that if you get hurt at a certain point in season and you haven't passed the percentage point, you can actually get that year of eligibility back. Where we find the red shirt year very, very beneficial to our guys coming out of community college, and this is a tip or a trick of the trade, is I tell my guys that are good freshmen that play right away significant minutes, and they are high impact players as sophomores. They basically keep that redshirt year in their back pocket. When they go to their 4-year institution, they make that part of the deal. So if they play as a junior, fantastic. And then somewhere between either junior year or senior year, they tell the coaches that are there with the institution that they're going to redshirt, and they use the redshirt year and they play their 4th and final season as a grad student. So now they're going to get grad school paid for in their scholarships. And that's something that we negotiate with the coaches prior to them starting there, because we're not going to pull a trick over their eyes. But most players don't realize that redshirt year will follow you. And if you manage your clock properly, it's a nice way to financially put yourself in a better situation. So my guys that do that, they actually even add on something else, is they'll use that red shirt as part of their scholarship process, get that first year of grad school paid for, and then they talk to the coaching staff about staying on as a grad assistant or doing something as a grad assistant with the soccer team or somewhere in the institution, and set that internship up. And now they've got first year of grad school paid for and the second year of grad school paid for, because they're going to have that job on campus that's going to qualify them for free grad school. So again, managing the business over everything else.
Yeah, that's huge. That's huge. And then if you manage that, I ended up having a medical red shirt my senior year. So I stayed one more year, and it's only one semester basically. And you only have to take a certain amount of classes. That 1 year that I stayed made it felt like I was so much better than the rest of the players. And that was just 1 year. So that not only does it help you academically and with a future career, but it also could help you soccer wise and potentially get you drafted and recruited in that year, because you're going to be heads above all the other players by that time, and you could get drafted out of that college route as well.
Yeah, definitely. Anything else from them on this? Or are we good?
No, I think let's move on to the next one.
Yeah, we can move on to the next one. And just right here, guys, I'll just kind of go through it, as far as this is the benefits overall of community college. And when I say this, I'm going to be very careful and say this, because this is the process that I talked to Coach about, that this is what community college potentially can do. And I'm going to be very upfront and honest and tell you this is why Fullerton College is different, and why we have our part of our mission is to be advocates in the community and get out there like this and talk to you guys about it. Because to be very honest, there's maybe only about 10 to 15% of the community colleges that are actively are following through with this process. And so I'm very unfortunate that there's a lot of schools out there that they still run the community college program like a high school program, and they're just checking in for practices and they do minimal stuff. They're not following through with the full potential of what they can do for their athletes. And when you get there, you're kind of on your own. That's where players on the flip side kind of fall through the cracks. And like I said, it has to be very careful as far as, which community college you pick, because even though that these are all the benefits that every community college potentially could have and should be offering, I'm going to be very honest and tell you guys that not every community college does. And this is where Fullerton College, I believe we thrive in this niche, and we do these things and bring it to the forefront. But this is, again, as I told Coach, this is something that we want to share the message, and we want everybody to know this, and we want other colleges to continue to push this agenda, so that everybody's getting the help they need in their community. And so going to the list, community college fits in every tier. It really does. It fits from 1 to 4 in every aspect. And to the guys going to 1, you can go to a 4-year school and not realize that you can cross enroll in a community college and dual enroll and take courses there and save money, and not take so many general education courses and get some free community college tuitions. We have last year, really every year, we have about 2 or 3 guys that are in Cal State Fullerton and weren't quite ready to make their team. They were either on the practice team or walk-ons, or they didn't feel like they were going to travel as much. So they redshirt at Cal State Fullerton, and they come and they play up with us. And so all fall semester, they're taking courses with us. In the spring, they go back and play with Cal State Fullerton. And so it fits in tier 1. It fits in 2, definitely, because you're going to save all that money. And for guys like in tier 4, and you're not completed on the transfer process, join up with the soccer program. Like we have 3 levels of program in our team. We have our first team, which is our roster fall team. We have our reserve squad, and we have guys that are there that we're just helping through the process, which is our club group. And if you join up with the soccer program, you're going to get priority registration. You're going to get academic counseling. You're going to get all the access to every resource on campus, and you're in a different category. So really, there's benefits even for tier 4. If you say, Coach, I really don't want to play soccer at a 4-year level, but I do like soccer. Say, well, great, then join up with a program that can help you and still utilize all the academic resources, especially priority registration, to get through this thing as quickly as possible. And if you keep your GPA up, you can go to the 4-year school with an academic scholarship, even though you don't want to play soccer there. So it's just a nice way to navigate that. There's financial aid through FAFSA, Promise Grant, and AB 540. The FAFSA, anything you qualify for FAFSA, you're going to get. So if that money is more than what it costs you to actually go to community college, that's money in your pocket. Some of the guys invested, put it in a bank account, and save it for the next program. The Promise Grant in California is something that's brand new. For if you don't qualify for any FAFSA, regardless of your economics, if you don't qualify for anything for FAFSA, at a community college, the Promise Grant kicks in, and that'll pick up your tuition. So you'll get free tuition for 2 years. It's just going to start here this August. At first, it was 1 year. 2 years ago, it was subject to your economic need. But now the Promise Grant is taken over. So if you get FAFSA, then you use FAFSA. If you don't qualify for FAFSA, then you get the Promise Grant, which is 2 years of an education for free, as long as you're a first-time college student.
And that's basically just an application process, right?
Just an application process through the financial aid. Yep.
Right.
And then the AB 540 is for our California residents, not citizens, but AB 540 will take care of your tuition and moves on with the 4-year level as well. But AB 540 does qualify for at a community college for free tuition as well. So you don't have to worry about your residency status. You don't have to worry about that if you qualify for AB 540, which is California residents, non-citizens. Then, and if you've completed 2 years of high school, then you'll get tuition paid for at a community college. The next thing is, with the right program, like here at Fullerton, we mandate a 3.0 GPA, which is the magic number for 4-year academic scholarships. So if you go to an institution or a program that has high academic success, you're going to get an academic scholarship when you leave. Like I said, our average scholarship for academics is probably around 50 to 60% just on the academic side when my guys transfer. And that's because they're transferring with 3.0s and higher. If you start getting 3.3, 3.5, 3.7, that's business. Every GPA point that goes up is money in your pocket. So if you go somewhere where they're going to help you academically and guide you academically, you're going to increase your scholarship on the academic side when you put the whole package together. The athletic development is just, again, like anything else, and Coach hit it too. The older you are and the more you play, the more experienced you are, and the best chances you're going to have of actually playing at that higher level. So it's all about when you come in and where you're at. So if you come in at a good point, you're a mature player, you've got games under your belt, you're very experienced, or you're older, you're going to have a higher probability of playing at that level. So again, it's like, yeah, you've opened the door to get on the roster, but now where are you on the depth chart? And are you going to be able to stand a couple of bad performances or bad practices? Were you good enough for them to kind of give you that second look? So athletic development is huge. Those extra 2 years of a college atmosphere and playing at that level is going to be massive for you to have the opportunity to play at the higher level. The third one is the soccer development. Like anything else, increased playing time, player validity. I told you a possibility of playing in those 20 games. We're at a community college. For most of you guys can come into these rosters and play and be impactful players and get those 50 games under your belt in those 2 years, if not more. For us in our season, we play about 25 plus games in the fall every year. And then we play 8 to 12 games in the springtime against 4-year schools. So again, that's how you start getting up to those 70 games. Now imagine walking into that 4-year program with 70 collegiate games under your belt. And for a lot of us, like for us, we're about a high Division II soccer level where we've beaten like APU and Cal State San Bernardino, who are in the national tournaments. So now when you transfer to APU and San Bernardino, you played 70 games and you've smashed on their squad, of course you're ready to walk in and roll. And so that's through growth and maturity. So again, when you're talking to those coaches and go back to buying power, if you're talking to the coaches of these programs and they've seen you play these games and they know that you're a proven player now and you have all the things that come with it, your validity is there, which means you have buying power to say, Coach, you need to give me some more of your investment to bring me to come to your school. I've already proven myself at this level. I'm not a high school senior anymore. So you got to come with it. And then the last ones that we put there is just proper resources to navigate the college process. Gentlemen, I don't care what level it is, the college process is going to be hard enough. That first day on campus and going through those years of campus, just college life in general is difficult because you have more freedom. There's more distractions. The college courses are harder. It's more independent study. Now we're going a lot more things online. So if you're not a good self-learner, it's going to be difficult. There's going to be enough challenges to begin with. But the way a lot of community colleges are set up, in particularly our school, we have a lot of academic resources where we mandate study hall. Our guys go to tutoring. So for any course, any subject they need help with, there's additional tutoring hours. We have life coaches that support that come along and figure out what you need, what kind of learner you are. So there's a lot of government aid to these resources. We have food banks on campus. So for guys that are just flat out struggling with food, you're not getting your lunch, money's tight at home. We have free food on campus that gets distributed out every Tuesday, Thursday. You go in with shopping bags, they give you shopping bags, and you get to fill them up. You get milk, eggs, cup of noodles, all these 3 things. So it's, man, as a starving student in college, I'm sure Coach would agree, those first years of college are hard, man. Mac and cheese and George Foreman's. I would have loved to have some free food. So that's something that you can do as well. And again, the last ones is, a lot of us at our community college, especially us, we have direct acceptance into UCs and Cal States. So there's a handful of UCs and Cal States that we work directly with that we bypass the admission process. So as long as you graduate with an AA degree, you're going to get automatic admittance into that school. And And that really helps the transfer rate because that's your backup plan. So as long as you do well, if things don't quite work out and you go academic, you at least know you're going to get into a UC or Cal State and you're going to be able to finish that degree. So that direct acceptance is really that safety net for just enrolling and finishing the first 2 years of college. You're not going to lose anything. If you got accepted into Cal State Long Beach, that's not going to go anywhere as long as you complete your 2 years properly and you get your AA degree. And the last point is we say this is why community college makes sense over everything else. Our motto is you're saving money to make money. And that's just smart business. I told the kid the other day, if you were going to pay $22,000 a year to go to school out of your parents' pocket, wouldn't you rather have the $88,000 at the end of your 4-year degree? I would have loved to have graduated my parents handing me a check for $88,000 instead of giving it to the admissions of Loyola Marymount, right? And so that's what I tell the kids. I said, look, if your parents can even flip the bill or there's money, just tell them to put that in the bank. And if you manage your money, you're going to have a nice bonus check when you get done to buy a house, to buy a car, to get started, to make investments. And I was telling to this kid he wants to do real estate. And I said, what could you do right now in the real estate market with $80,000? He said, Coach, I could buy 2 properties and get going with my business. I said, absolutely. So be smart on the business side, minimize your loans, put money away, make your money work for you. So that's, again, just being all around educated and just kind of understanding that this could be very beneficial to you guys in many different ways.
Amen.
Yeah. The last slide, we can kind of touch up again. This is just kind of for you guys, and Carlos, feel free to share. These are just some highlights from our college program altogether. So if you guys don't know anything about us, we model a 4-year Division I institution. So everything they do at Cal State Fullerton, UCLA, Stanford, USD, LMU, we do the same thing. Our schedules are the same. We have strength and conditioning coaches all year long. We have the same exact schedules, study hall, weights, practice, games, travel, all those things. We model everything after the Division I level. We do that because I can't say I want my guys to play Division I if they're not exposed to that environment straight out the gate. Free tuition for 2 years. I already kind of talked about that. You're going to get priority registration with us. We have a financial aid specialist that's strictly to athletics. So he's going to see your packages when you come in, and he also checks every package that goes out. So when my guys are being recruited, he reviews all the financial aid packages and makes sure that we check every box. Student athlete academic counselor, someone that are going to plan your schedules all the way through. You change your major, you change your course, they're going to be on it to make sure you graduate in 2 years. We have our average rate of guys getting through this process is 3 to 4 semesters. Life coaches that are going to navigate anything on campus for you, point you in the right resources, guide your whole collegiate life skills, communicate with your professors, help you when we go on the road, find you tutors, find you the food bank, international services, whatever you need, that's their job to help the athletes. Student athlete tutors. So if you need a tutor for philosophy, math, English, we have tutors and study halls that are available for that. And where we just flat out stand out over everybody else, guys, is we're the only community college that mandates a 3.0 GPA, because for me, that's business. It's not a discipline thing. That we're talking business now. That 3.0 and higher means my guys are going to get a lot of money. Our average team GPA this year was 3.5. We were the highest in the state because of that 3.0 rule. Everybody thought we were kind of crazy when we did it, but as of that, my guys got really paid. I just had a kid sign a $40,000 academic scholarship just coming off the practice team. Strength and conditioning coaches, full-time. So you're going to lift with us 4 times a week, all year long. So we have a full training staff devoted to helping you become a next level athlete. Full-time soccer coaching staff. We have 6 coaches on staff. We're all there full-time working on various different projects and within the campus. So we're always around. And for the last 4 years, 100% transfer rate. We were number 1 in California for overall transfers. Top 3 in the state for soccer, top 10 in the country for soccer. Back-to-back conference champs. Our conference is Santa Ana, IVC, Golden West, Irvine, Cypress. We were the conference champs the last 2 years in a row. And the biggest thing from us is we guarantee transfer, which means we're going to guide you every step of the way. There's nothing about my guys that I don't know that we're not involved in, because we want them to get out as quickly as possible. And everything that I talked to you about that today, we fulfill our commitment. So kind of going through it, hopefully this information was helpful to you guys. And I put our information down there. So if you want to talk more or need additional conversations, you can you can follow up with me or get my information from Coach Carlos.
So let me open this up here. So thanks, Greg. That was awesome, man. I even learn more stuff every time we talk. So what I want to just reiterate to you guys is, obviously Greg gave you all the different pathways and the different tiers. What he's telling you specifically about Fullerton College is what they do. He also will tell you that there's other community colleges that do very similar and also have the opportunity and the ability to help you guys get, because I know we got some guys going to IVC. We got, I think with the O1s, we had a guy going to Golden West, different schools like that. But the question is are they helping you get to that next level? Or some guys that are even going to go to IVC. So Greg can reiterate, all these other community colleges have the opportunity to provide this for you. He just does it a little bit differently. So can you touch on that a little bit, Greg, about what all these different schools in the area that can do it, but then how you guys do it differently?
Yeah, and I think again, it's not to any college is we all have the same abilities, and the community colleges, we're all mandated the same. We all have the same level of opportunity, but it's like anything else. Like all you guys on the team have the same opportunity, the same access to all the coaching staffs and everything. But it's going to be a matter of who works harder at the process and who's willing to get after the things and really put the pressure on the resources to bring them back to the players. And so for us, why we're different is all the colleges can do that. And definitely if you're at another campus, put the pressure on the coaches or the people that are involved, or seek out these resources that I've named out for you today, because I'm not telling you anything different that we have on our campus that are not at the other campuses. The difference between us and our staff is we're full on integrating all of these resources into our program. All of our guys are getting all these things on a daily basis. And we follow through with this process. So our number one goal at Fullerton is not necessarily winning conference. Winning conference comes with just working harder than everybody else. It's a byproduct. Winning is the byproduct of hard work. And so for us, we believe that if we work hard in every aspect, and our guys are putting in 30, 40, 50 hours a week to their craft, to their studies, to their athletics, to the weight room, to doing extra skill work, breaking down film, all those things, you're going to be successful. You're going to be a more integrated player. So that's and really where we educate our players in the process is the whole thing, not just soccer. So you're not just showing up like at other campuses where they just show up for soccer practice and then the rest of the day they're on their own. We're with our guys from 7, 8 o'clock in the morning till 3, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, just working on this process all together, getting ready for the next level. And we put that all into place with everything that I named about Fullerton College, with our strength coaches, with our life coaches, with our study hall. That's kind of how we go. So a quick little day for us is 7 a.m. weight room with the strength coaches, 8 o'clock study hall, 10 o'clock in the athletic training room, prepping your body, seeing the trainers, getting all ready to go for practice, 10:30 on the training ground until 12:30. 12:30, get to class. And if you're not in class, you're doing tutoring, doing studies, getting in some extra work. And that's kind of your day every day. Game days, we do morning walkthroughs, and we play a game. So it's a full day for us. So if some of you guys are in other places and you're not getting some of these resources, it's not a pitch and a selling point for you to come to Fullerton College. I urge you, put the pressure on those other coaches, because that's my advocacy in this. We built this program to put everybody on notice so that they help kids in their community and continue to drive the community college process, because it makes the most sense for you guys if they're all doing it right. So we don't want to steal players from other institutions. I want other institutions to provide every resource to every kid in their community so that everybody wins. Because for me, at the end of the day, it's not about winning conference championships. It's about transferring kids and players to the right institutions for 4 years, getting your degree, and saving as much money as possible in this process.
Thanks. And then, so do we have any questions? Any of you guys have any questions that, about the process, the tiers, the rules, anything specific about junior JCs, anything, raise your hand or whatever, we can unmute you and say, I'm sure your question is probably shared by others as well.
I don't know about anyone else, but me, I think the other coach explained it pretty well, and I appreciate him for coming and talking with us.
Who? Oh, Greg?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, because right now you particularly you're in college, right?
Yeah, I am.
You're going to where? Where are you going?
Golden West second semester.
Right. And, like, for example, you could be playing on training with that team or doing something with them if they had something in place for that, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Correct.
But I don't know if they do or not. So, for example, with Fullerton College, you could be going there and you could not be on the team, but you could be on like their junior varsity team, getting all your credits, getting the training, getting developed, getting games in and doing all that stuff, and then maybe making your way onto the first team.
Yeah.
Yeah, and as an example, like for our guys, like the way we're set up, guys, in our program is we have our first team, which is it gets reevaluated after every fall. Just because you're on a team one fall doesn't mean you're there. We're about all the guys moving on and getting the ability. So it's competition every day, always. But we have guys right now that were on the reserve squad last fall. In spring, everybody comes together as one team. And so when we only got one spring game in because of the pandemic, but we played Whittier College. And guys that were on our reserve squad got to be recruited and got to play against the Whittier College first squad. So without even getting one junior college game in, they got a 4-year university game in. And we had guys get recruited out of that game that weren't even on our squad in the fall, but they were with us in the spring. And then in the summer, we all come together again. So for us in our program, we have 3 levels. Like I said, our fall team guys, we have our reserve squad guys at any point of the year, and then we have, which we consider our club guys, which are our academic guys. The reserve guys squad are just guys that kind of need a little bit more work, but regardless of all that, all of our guys in our program all got collegiate games last year. So they practiced 12 months out of the year. They were in the weight room with everybody. We have assigned coaches and practices to them when they're not with us in the fall. So when the first team is practicing, the reserve guys are also practicing. So with all those resources, you would be in a 4-year program, and the only thing different that we allow our reserve guys and also our club guys to do is we let them go back with their club teams and play fall games if they have an opportunity still to play with our club team or play a national cup. So we're working hand in hand with the club groups. We're working hand in hand with the collegiate coaches to continue the process forward. So for you, yeah, you would have been with us in spring. You would have had collegiate games at the 4-year level, and you could have been playing with your club team as well, and it would have all come together.
So we can open it up for more questions, or maybe just share with us like something that you learned or something you didn't know about that we brought to your attention today that kind of opened your eyes to something or made you think about, oh, okay, I didn't even know that existed or that was a possibility.
I didn't know that like you could play with 2 different colleges, not play with 2 different colleges, but train and be at 2 different colleges at the same time. So I appreciate giving me the information on that.
Cool. Anyone else? Was this helpful? Did you guys get something from it? Let us know so we can know, because we want to be able to share this with other people as well. We just want to make sure it's being helpful for you guys.
Yeah, I thought this was really helpful. I took notes the whole time, but it's just a lot of information to kind of process and wrap my mind around.
Yeah, no, definitely. So, Greg, what would you say would be the our next step or next thing that we would want to do?
What I would like to do with you guys is it's a lot of information, and we were trying to keep it condense the meeting a little bit, but give you guys as much to think about, not knowing the next step. But if you guys are open for it, if after you've taken your notes and you've kind of seen it, and and Carlos, feel free that you have the presentation to share with any of the players or families. The information, we can get on another call, and it can just be a Q&A, based on everything that we've talked about. Once you guys have processed it and you've had some time to generate questions, I'd be more than happy to get on with you guys and just kind of field questions and make it a little bit more interactive.
Okay. So you guys think maybe next week, next Tuesday, kind of do this same thing. Thursday, we can come back and just kind of maybe some of those questions that you have for me, we can discuss it as a team. And then Tuesday, maybe we can come back with something more specific based off those questions that we discuss or talk about on Thursday. That sound like a plan?
Yeah, sounds good.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So we'll plan it. We'll have our same meeting time, 6:20 on Thursday. Well, whatever notes you guys had, come back. We can talk a little bit more specifically about your specific situation. And then we can say, okay, well, then we can come back on Tuesday, maybe with something different, specific, customized, something like that. Sound good?
Sounds good, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah.
And for any of you guys that you want to talk amongst them, in the meantime, like I said, feel free to get my information. We're always a phone call away, very, very accessible. So if you guys want to reach out individually and talk, I'd be more than happy to talk to you guys on a side note with your own questions, or if you're interested at all in our program. I know there's a few guys, looks like, on there that we've recruited through the year, or at least talked to. So if you guys want to reach out, just get my information and feel free to call at any point in time.
Yeah, and same with me. So if you have specific questions for me, reach out to me. If you need to get Greg's information, let me know and I'll pass you on to him. And we can have those discussions even in between now and Thursday. Okay?
All right.
Hey, but I appreciate you guys coming on. I did record this, so this will be saved. I can send it out to you guys so you could, re-listen if there's some different parts that you wanted to go over. But let's keep in touch between now and Thursday, and then we'll come with some questions and answers on Thursday and kind of see if we can help you guys out more specifically. Okay?
All right.
Cool.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Thanks,
Thank
guys.
you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Coaches.
Thank you. See you.
See ya.